Caloocan, Philippines. First of all, I would like to thank the International Association for Statistics Education for their support for my attendance here at the 11th International Conference on Teaching Statistics. This is actually my first time to share my work in the international scene. And what makes this more memorable for me and my family is that my son, Professor Dominic B. Daita of the University of the Philippines, will also be presenting his paper at this conference on September 16. My work is entitled Developing a Localized and Context-Driven Approach for Improving the Instruction of Statistics and Probability in the Secondary Level in the Philippines. Statistics and probability is one of the 15 core subjects in the senior high school of the Philippine Basic Education System. It aims primarily to prepare and nurture the students to become globally competitive. As a core subject, the learner of statistics and probability in the senior high school is expected to know how to find the mean and variance of a random variable, to apply sampling techniques and distributions, to estimate population mean and proportion, to perform hypothesis testing such as t-test, z-test, etc. on proportion and population mean, and to perform correlation and regression analysis on real-world problems. Late arrival and lack of modules is one of the problems found in a Philippine public high school in the implementation of the K-12 mathematics curriculum. Another is the unavailability or lack of instructional materials in senior high school. While books have been delivered for some of the other subjects, the delivery of instructional materials in statistics and probability is yet to be realized. Most of the textbooks and instructional materials readily available to educators and students are those made abroad by foreign authors. Of course, the method of presenting the ideas and concepts are foreign to the students, which is perhaps one of the reasons why local students are disinterested in learning most of the topics. Because these materials do not relate to the situation of the students and their everyday experiences, they seem to not see the need to study such. If ever they did take time to participate and study the materials, they easily forget the concept since they were not able to find connections with what they studied and their real life experiences. Guided by Section 10.3 of the Implementing Rules and Regulations of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013 here in the Philippines, which states that the production and development of locally produced teaching and learning materials shall be encouraged. Hence, the mathematics teachers produced a module that is based on the curriculum designed by the Department of Education in our country for statistics and probability as a core subject in senior high school that contains problems and exercises that are real and relevant to the students in Caloocan City, our locality. The situations and scenarios in the problems and exercises used in the module are those that are common to the residents of Caloocan City and are applied in statistics and probability. Following the recommendations by Wayland, the study investigates the positive gains of standardizing and improving the teaching materials in use for statistics and probability in the country through a localized and contextualized approach. We use the operational definition by Garin, 2016, for contextualized learning, meaning to teach in connection with the real life and within the culture of the learners. Localization, on the other hand, is a degree of contextualization, the other being indigenization, which refers to linking learning content listed in the curriculum to local facts, daily experiences, and authentic materials in the learner's community. The following figure shows a portion of the first chapter introducing the concept of randomness and random variables. A main feature of the contextualized and localized material is that statistical concepts are presented using phenomena, situations, and issues that the learner will be familiar with. This introduction to random variables revolves around the motorcycle industry in our city, Caloocan City, the location of the school at which this pilot study was conducted. Meanwhile, the next two figures show some items from the exercises portion of this chapter, alongside items that have more to do with abstract mathematical formulations, are items that concern current events, specifically a report on the President's approval ratings, and situations that, though hypothetical, nevertheless concerns locales and structures of which students have immediate knowledge. We now proceed to the evaluating the developed, localized, and context-driven approach material. With the assistance of teachers at our school, Tandang Sora Integrated School, a public high school in the division of Caloocan City, Philippines, two sections of grade 11 students with 30 students each participated in a controlled trial of the developed modules. One group was taught using the localized and contextualized materials, referred to as the experimental group, while the other group was taught using the chapters and exercises derived from the elementary statistics by Alan Bluman, referred to as the control group. A pre-test and post-test were administered to both groups to measure their competencies before and after the lessons. In terms of their mean scores on the pre-test, students in the control group scored on average 13.57 with standard deviation of 3.79, while those in the experimental group scored 14.77 with standard deviation of 3.66. The two-tailed test returned an insignificant result as the computed t-value of 1.227 is smaller than the t-critical value of 2.002, significance level 0.05. Although it was observed previously that in terms of mean score, the modular group was 1.2 points greater than the non-modular group. This is not indicative of a significant advantage that the modular group has over the non-modular group in terms of prior knowledge of statistical concepts. Meanwhile, on the post-test performance, the control group scored an average of 27.4 with standard deviation of 3.7, while the experimental group scored 32.33 with standard deviation of 5.49. Under a t-test for independent means, we are able to conclude significant difference with t-statistic of 4.014 against 58 degrees of freedom. This supported the observation that students in the modular group did, in fact, improve versus those in the non-modular group after undergoing instruction with the proposed contextualized teaching materials. The result is consistent with the findings of Devish and Al-Nazari in 2014 that the students found the lessons interesting since there were connections in their real-life activities using the module. A significant difference between the pre-test and post-test scores of the non-modular group was found. The result is supported by the findings that the traditional approach is still used by many educators in improving the performance of students. However, it mostly increased the low cognitive level of the students. Between the pre-test and post-test mean performance of the modular group, a significant difference was found. The use of localized and context-driven module created a positive effect in improving the performance of the senior high school students in statistics and probability. Using the module was effective in enhancing the cognitive skills of the students, even in the higher thinking order. While both the conventional and contextual material resulted in an improvement of the students' performance, the contextualized learning material improved students' understanding of the subject significantly, making the case for preferring such materials over the traditional ones currently in use in the Philippine educational system. From these results, it may be recommended that educators and school administrators explore wider usage and development of contextualized and localized learning materials. So, a similar study can be done as a recommendation to all the Division of City Schools in the Department of Education in our country. And also similar study can be done in other core subjects in senior high school program of the Philippine Basic Education System. That will be all. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much. Does anyone, we have a minute, if anyone has any questions, either online, please type it in the chat, or if any of the audience here has a question. No questions? Any of the online audience, if you want to type a question in the chat. Thank you. As a former high school teacher, I found that very interesting and appreciate the effort to connect what statistics education could be in a classroom to the world outside. It actually ties to the opening speaker this morning about trying to make connections and hopefully helping students learn to communicate in statistical language, but in ways that are understood by others.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. I think we are on schedule to move to our second speaker.